A stage, millions watching, one bold challenge. Ivanka Trump thought she could shake Barack Obama. But in just minutes, the former president turned the tables in a way no one expected. The hall was electric. Every seat was filled and the air buzzed with anticipation. Reporters, world leaders, and young activists alike had gathered under the grand dome of Washington's International Leadership Conference. The theme boldly displayed across massive screens read, "The Future of American Leadership." Cameras flashed and a hush fell as the audience waited for the event to begin. This wasn't just another conference. Something about this night felt charged, like history might be quietly waiting to unfold. At the center of the stage, in a chair that seemed to command both respect and attention, sat Barack Obama. Even without raising his voice, he carried a presence that silenced the room. His posture was calm, unhurried, yet magnetic, like someone who had seen storms and sunshine in equal measure, and could navigate both with grace. He wasn't just a former president tonight. He was a symbol of experience, of wisdom forged in pressure, of a voice that millions had trusted. Beside him, a figure of sharp contrast sat poised yet undeniably radiant. Ivanka Trump. She exuded confidence, elegance, and determination in every movement. Her eyes scanned the audience as if challenging them to judge her by more than her last name. There was a subtle smile on her lips, one that hinted she was ready to take the stage with her own rules. Some saw it as poise, others sensed a spark of defiance. No matter the interpretation, it was clear she had come to challenge the room, and perhaps the man beside her. The moderator, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "Tonight," he said, his voice steady yet carrying weight, "we explore leadership in a world that is changing faster than ever before. Mr. Obama, what do you see as the greatest challenges ahead?" The room leaned in. There was a quiet murmur. Everyone wanted to hear the first word from a leader who had already defined an era. Obama looked out at the audience, a moment of pause stretching just long enough to make hearts race, and then spoke. His tone was calm, deliberate, measured. "Leadership," he said, "is about listening, learning, and lifting others, not just lifting your own name." The audience nodded, some leaning forward, captivated by the simplicity and power of the statement. It was a phrase that could hang in the air for hours, like a whispered truth people already knew but needed to hear spoken aloud. And yet the moment, while serene, felt fragile, like the calm before a storm. Ivanka leaned slightly forward, her fingers brushing the edge of the microphone, her smile turning just enough to carry a challenge. "With respect, Mr. Obama," she said, her voice smooth, but edged with assertiveness. "Leadership is also about results. My generation doesn't want long speeches. We want action. We want progress." A ripple passed through the audience. Silence fell. It wasn't the polite pause of a room merely waiting. It was the kind of silence that makes a heartbeat thunder. Even the camera seemed to linger a fraction longer on her face, capturing every nuance, the confidence, the subtle edge, the defiance. Obama's lips curved into that familiar knowing smile, the one that promised wisdom without confrontation. It was the smile that could disarm without offense, that could quiet a room and make a point more powerful than any argument. The tension was tangible. Every eye in the hall darted between them. Would he push back? Would she hold her ground? The audience could feel the unspoken battle unfolding in real time. The weight of experience meeting the fire of ambition. Then slowly, deliberately, Obama leaned forward, resting his forearms lightly on his knees. "Ivanka," he began, his voice steady, yet carrying a subtle weight. "It's easy to talk about leadership when you've never had to earn the trust of millions through long days and sleepless nights. It's easy to say, 'Get things done,' when someone else built the ladder you're standing on." Gasps and murmurs ran through the hall. The words hung in the air like sparks in the dark, creating tension that was almost unbearable. Ivanka blinked, a flash of surprise crossing her face. She had expected challenge. Yes, but perhaps not this measured, almost surgical response. "Are you saying I haven't earned what I have?" she asked, her voice steady, but sharper now, the edge of indignation coloring her words. Obama shook his head gently, his eyes steady, unflinching. "No," he said softly. "I'm saying leadership isn't measured by what you inherit. It's measured by what you sacrifice." The room went still again. A quiet admiration settled over the audience. A sense that something rare was happening. A moment that transcended politics, legacy, or reputation. It was a teaching moment, a lesson disguised as conversation, a subtle duel of intellect, and presence that left everyone holding their breath. Ivanka's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in calculation. She smiled, a small, controlled smile, the kind that masks a storm beneath calm waters. The audience waited, the suspense nearly unbearable. This was the opening act of a confrontation that promised to challenge expectations, push boundaries, and leave everyone wondering who would truly own the stage by the night's end. And in that silence, in the pause between words, the unspoken question lingered in the air. Who would lead? Not just the room, but the conversation. Who would turn this moment into history? The stage lights shone brighter. The audience leaned in, and the night had only just begun. The applause from the previous exchange still lingered like the fading echo of a heartbeat in a quiet room. Cameras swiveled, capturing every fleeting expression. The moderator cleared his throat, sensing the charged atmosphere, and turned toward Ivanka. "Would you like to respond further?" he asked. His voice was neutral, professional, but even he could feel the tension crackling across the stage. Ivanka leaned forward, her posture perfect, her gaze unwavering. There was no hesitation now, only determination. "Yes," she said, her voice calm yet edged with intensity. "I think people are tired of leaders who talk about hope and unity, but forget the realities of the world we live in. People want action. They want results. They want leaders who understand how to make money move, how to create jobs, how to make life better for ordinary Americans." Her words hung in the room like a challenge thrown into a quiet river waiting to ripple. A polite applause broke out from the audience, though some faces betrayed a mixture of intrigue and apprehension. They could sense the battle of ideas unfolding. A contest not just of words, but of presence, history, and vision. Obama didn't respond immediately. He let the applause die down. He waited, and in that wait, the room felt suspended as if holding its collective breath. Then, with deliberate calm, he leaned forward slightly, his voice smooth but sharp, cutting through the tension like a well-aimed arrow. "Ivanka," he began, each word measured, precise, carrying the weight of experience. "I admire your confidence. I really do. But let me be clear. It's easy to talk about leadership when you haven't had to earn the trust of millions through nights filled with doubt. When you haven't faced the eyes of a nation waiting for answers that may not exist. It's easy to say get things done when someone else has built the ladder you're standing on." A collective gasp ran through the audience. Some leaned forward, some sat frozen, their eyes darting between the two figures on stage. The word struck with unexpected force, cutting deeper than applause or polite nods ever could. Ivanka's smile faltered ever so slightly, though she masked it instantly. Her expression betrayed the first flicker of uncertainty, a momentary crack in the armor of certainty she had worn so confidently just minutes ago. "Are you saying I haven't earned what I have?" Her voice was steady, but the sharpness in her tone hinted at the tension building beneath the surface. Obama shook his head gently, his eyes locked on hers. Not a look of accusation, but a quiet, unyielding truth. "No," he said, soft but firm. "I'm saying leadership isn't measured by what you inherit. It's measured by what you sacrifice. It's measured by the hard choices you make when nobody is watching. When your comfort is on the line and when failure could cost everything." The room fell silent again. The kind of silence that makes a person lean forward instinctively. Every microphone in the room seemed to capture the gravity of his words. Every camera lens framing the unspoken tension between experience and ambition, tradition, and new energy. Ivanka's gaze flickered just for a fraction of a second to the audience. She knew the room was witnessing something rare. A real battle of intellect and vision. And yet, she wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. "Ivanka," Obama continued, his voice calm but piercing. "You have passion. That is clear. But passion alone cannot carry a nation. Confidence is not the same as wisdom. And bold words do not always translate to meaningful action." Her jaw tightened slightly. She was calculating, thinking, responding internally to every word. And when she spoke again, her voice was a mixture of defiance and sharp clarity, the kind that makes an audience lean closer, eager to see the next move in this unfolding duel. "With respect, Mr. Obama," she said, each word deliberate. "You had 8 years to address these challenges. And while you may have tried, many people still struggle. Maybe it's not me who doesn't understand real Americans. Maybe it's you who's lost touch with the day-to-day struggles of ordinary citizens. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. Cameras zoomed in on Obama's face. There was a pause, a beat so long it felt like time itself had slowed. And then, with the quiet authority that had defined his presidency, he leaned in slightly, his tone softer, almost conspiratorial, but every word carried undeniable weight. "Ivanka," he said slowly, his gaze steady. "I come from a family that didn't have much. I worked hard to build a path where none existed. I understand struggle in a way that cannot be measured by wealth or inheritance. Leadership is not about pretending to speak for everyone. It is about listening even when the truth is uncomfortable, even when it challenges your own assumptions." The audience erupted into polite applause, some faces now showing visible admiration. Ivanka's expression shifted slightly. Her confident smile remained, but her voice when she responded carried a subtle edge of tension in acknowledgement that the conversation was no longer a simple debate. "Well, maybe it's time for the next generation to take the lead," she said, her tone sharper yet tinged with humor, as if trying to regain control of the moment. Obama's smile returned, calm but piercing, the kind that carries both warmth and challenge. "That's fair," he said, his voice gentle yet firm. "But make sure your generation understands the difference between serving people and serving power." The audience erupted into applause, louder this time, a mix of admiration and suspense. Every eye watched Ivanka's reaction. Every camera captured the subtle tension in her smile, the way her mind was racing behind her poised exterior. And in that instant, the stage had transformed. What began as a discussion about leadership had become a high-stakes exchange, a chess match of intellect, confidence, and principle. The question lingered like a shadow over the hall. Who would emerge not just as the loudest voice, but as the truest leader? The night was far from over, and the next moves promised to be even more revealing. The room was alive with tension. Every seat was occupied, yet no one moved. The audience was no longer just listening. They were leaning in, holding their breath, caught in the subtle storm unfolding between two generations of power and influence. The cameras circled like predators, capturing every flicker of expression, every blink, every heartbeat. Ivanka Trump leaned forward, her posture flawless, but her voice now carried a sharper edge. She was not here to simply exchange polite words. She had come to challenge, to stake a claim, to push back against a man whose calm had already shifted the balance of the room. "With respect, Mr. Obama," she began, her eyes unwavering. "You had 8 years to fix everything, and yet people are still struggling. Families are still working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Maybe you don't really understand what ordinary Americans go through." A murmur rippled through the audience. The words were not just a challenge. They were almost personal, piercing the calm facade that Obama carried with him like a second skin. The room shifted slightly in their seats. Cameras zoomed closer, capturing every micro-expression, the faint tightening of his jaw, the slight narrowing of his eyes. But Obama did not move immediately. He didn't respond with the sharp retort some might expect. He simply looked at her, and in that look was a quiet command for the room to pause to feel the weight of the moment. It was the kind of silence that makes an audience lean forward instinctively, hearts pounding, waiting for what comes next. Finally, his voice cut through the suspense. Not loud, not angry, but calm, deliberate, and layered with authority. "Ivanka," he said, his eyes never leaving hers, "I come from a family that didn't have much. I know struggle. I know what it is to wake up each day without certainty, without support, and still push forward. I understand the weight of responsibility when failure isn't just a word. It's a consequence that can affect thousands." The audience was captivated. Every eye was fixed on the stage. Some leaned forward, fists gripping the edges of chairs. Some whispered to neighbors, their voices barely audible. Cameras captured the quiet tension. As Obama continued, "I understand what it means to work hard when no one is watching, when no one is applauding. Leadership is not about pretending to speak for everyone," he said, his voice softening. "It is about listening, even when it is uncomfortable. Even when it challenges you to confront truths you may not want to face." Ivanka's expression shifted slightly. A flicker of uncertainty passed across her face, almost imperceptible, but it was enough for the cameras to catch it. She smiled, But there was tension behind the controlled expression. Her voice, when she responded, was tighter than before, more deliberate, as if she was carefully weighing every word to regain control. "Well," she said, "maybe it's time for the next generation to take the lead."